recording also.
Hello.
Okay. Hey, how you doing? Welcome.
Burnoutstudios.com.
We actually did one in a relatively quick turnaround. Oh, it's been 2 weeks, but for us, that's quick.
Well, yeah. I mean,
we're trying.
when you have to work and survive, you know the time you spend on YouTube or wherever is limited. But I mean, from the last podcast, which was titled "A Gun Saved My Life," but that whole process of writing letters, I've written a bunch of letters that have gone out. I was trying to shotgun out them all at the same time, but found out that was with my schedule I wasn't able to do that. So I've been kind of doing two or three gun channels a night, kind of sending out the letter, and so far I haven't got a response back. So that I've noticed.
It sucks.
I've
totally reminds me of.
I've been checking my email and stuff, but
comic submissions back in the day.
Yeah, I'm guessing that it's not. It's that these channels that I chose are they're all fairly big, and they probably get thousands of emails,
millions
a day,
thousands for a lot of them. That's like trying to shoot an email to Ben Shapiro.
Right.
What were they saying? The Daily Wire has almost 900,000 subscribers right now.
Yeah.
So you can only imagine.
Right, so hopefully eventually they'll see it. It'd be neat to see if they like my idea as much as I do.
That's kind of what I want to talk about a little bit today. I entitled this one the business of storytelling. And I mean, we've struggled so much,
we've been we've been trying to get known for a long time.
Right. I mean, just doing the podcast alone, we started doing the podcast to help grow an audience, and even just being able to do that at a regular basis is such a struggle.
Right.
Tim Pool on his show 3 weeks ago said that they would love to have. He wants to expand more content on his channel.
Right.
He wants to bring on more smaller podcasts.
Yes.
And he doesn't want to just bring on people that already have well-established audiences. He's like, because you've already got your audience. You're just fine. But he wants to bring on people who are small, who's got things to say, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And I've been trying to figure out how we can get ours noticed and put on there. But once again, the business of storytelling, because it's like, what's our podcast really usually about? It's usually about stories.
To be about stories, yes.
And then, but
the thing is
but our storytelling
stories cover pop culture and everything. So yeah, we kind of
well, our stories all are rooted from pop culture. It's rooted from life experience. It's rooted from politics, from religion. I mean, you can't tell a story without any of that stuff, without past stories to influence you, without life stories influencing you, whether those are political life stories, religious life stories, love life stories, loss, all that stuff. So
you're right. What you
and
know.
Because of that, and I already know that one of their new shows that they already have on there is a pop culture show.
Yeah.
It's like, is that what we already were covering? Is pop culture? Not in the same. I know it's not the same as them because I think what they actually do is they take like Thor: Love and Thunder just came out.
Right.
So I think they would cover that specifically on their show. Now, I can talk about it because I just went and saw it yesterday.
I haven't seen it yet.
But
I was going to take the kids.
Wasn't as bad as I was expecting, that's for sure.
You were expecting it to be bad? I think it looks great.
Well, some of the scuttle that I've seen on the internet, from people that, I don't follow, but people that pop up on my feed, because of other people that I follow, you know, they're always so quick to lambast stuff. And yes, they did shoehorn woke social ideology into it, and it really was shoehorned in, but it wasn't as overtly bad as I was expecting. The only thing that I thought, and spoilers, is I thought maybe it was too funny sometimes.
Really?
Yes.
Not.
Because I mean, it's like at some time, I mean, Thor. To me, Thor's never been a funny superhero. Spider-Man is a funny superhero.
Yeah.
Now Chris Hemsworth
is a funny dude.
And and they sure found something out with Thor Ragnarok. In fact, I think, yeah, with Thor Ragnarok, I mean, this is just that on cocaine. I mean, it's just really.
But it's Taika Waititi that's doing it again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why. I mean, he can't help but be funny.
Well, but there's funny, but then there's. I'm serious. This is. Have you ever watched a comedian go on a talk show, and it's like, can't you just answer the question and not have to try to make a joke out of everything? I know you're supposed to be funny, but when you try to make a joke out of every line that comes out of your mouth, then nothing becomes funny.
You want to know who?
You know what I mean?
I mean, sorry to sidebar here, but you want to know who I think is really?
Because that's what we do.
Really naturally funny, though, as a speaker that's on a political, although it's billed as a comedy political show. Crowder has his newest sidekick or whatever you want to call
Landau.
it. Landau is so funny naturally. I mean, like Crowder always introduces him as the fastest man.
Well, he
is. I mean,
he's very locked down on that show.
He was on
But did you see him on Tim?
God, he's so great.
That was, yeah, that's where he really shined, was on Tim's show. Because I mean, he's good on Crowder, but I think on Crowder they have such a target on their back that they're a lot more, reserved about what they say and stuff. I can only imagine what that after hours show was like with him and.
Yeah, I'd kind of want to see it.
I've been thinking about
joining Tim
just so I could go back and watch that after you think these after shows are going to be so exciting, but then there's no, like, they never drop a clip about it, or
they have the Sunday version, but they choose
or even talk about it. You know what I mean? Right. It's like you would think if something really awesome happened on that show, they would be talking about the next day a little bit.
Yeah, just to plug it.
Right?
Get people to go
right,
sign up.
because it's like, I mean, if it was like, you guys should have heard what we talked, you know what I mean? It'd have been like, I'd be like, maybe I'm going to go sign up for that, but, I mean, I've thought about maybe, today I was thinking about maybe going and joining Daily Wire Plus.
But what's funny is,
I like the fact that
want to join
Peterson's on there.
I want to join Daily Wire just so I can see those movies.
You know,
but
well, yeah, I mean,
this is the kind of, I guess what your subject was going to be about is these guys are marketing themselves, you know, and bringing people to their site and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we don't really even have a site set up or anything. I mean,
we have a site, but
all of this stuff is for our on our part. We're just everything is done in our spare time.
I did change.
I don't know. I want to know. This is my question.
So this is now.
Oh, cool. But
for people at Burnt Out Studios now, the name of our YouTube site. Yeah. And I was trying to change out the banner. Oh, heaven! You know, I've talked about when I go to do stuff, it never works.
Right.
And that's really what impedes me from doing a lot of stuff sometimes.
Well,
stupid banner.
The question I'd have for any popular podcaster right now is, where was that time when did it happen when they knew that they could quit their day job and become a podcaster? Did they just bite the bullet, say fuck it, and just do it?
Probably when they had enough money coming in.
Right. And
That's like I watch a guy who streams Call of Duty, Iceman Isaac, and he could technically quit his day job right now, but he can't because he's contracted with the military. He's an Air Force pilot, so he can't. But he's already gone pro. His channel's huge. He's already set that as soon as his contract is up with the Air Force, bam,
right.
he's full time streaming and playing Call of Duty and playing tournaments and stuff. My thing though is so on Tim's channel they have I haven't watched their pop culture show because I don't have access to it. And I asked you about this before about, could we, because in a text I asked him, could we cut our show down to an hour? Could we cut our show down to 2 hours if it had to fit within a network? You know what I mean?
Right.
So like if they said, we're going to air your podcast every day between 3 and 4, or on this day between 3 and 4, or 3 and 5. And so we want a 2-hour podcast from you. And what just from thinking for the last 3 weeks, I'm trying to figure out, I don't know how, I don't think it'll work. I'm stammering, but I'm waffling. There you go, waffle. Is it because our show isn't structured?
Oh yeah, but
Are we not talking about a current movie, an old movie that you should see, a book that you should read, type of thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is there segments that we should do, and then we can go off on our tangents?
True.
But if everything was
But we'd have to think of segments.
right, and then would people be more into wanting to, one segment, what did we learn this week in the business of storytelling?
Right.
Which for us, is going to go from editing, rewriting, redrawing, directing, to crowdfunding for the first time, to fulfilling all, you know what I mean? So, you know who Eric July is from The Blaze? Young Ripa?
No, sorry.
He's a black guy. He's got a big juicy beard.
Okay.
So he just launched a comic book. His own.
Sweet.
Well, he actually launched his own publishing company, the Ripaverse, and he launched a comic book, 96 pages for $35. Now he's got a giant audience, and he's on The Blaze. So between being on The Blaze and The Blaze people knowing him, Daily Wire people knowing,
Right.
he's got a good name.
Right.
First day, 10,000 backers, $1 million.
Nice.
Since his book was $35, that means on average, people spend $100 on his campaign. That means people are buying all the extras. They're supported the hell out of him. But he does a show where he does little segments like Tim does, and then he also does a long form podcast where he just talks about. But his stuff is always it's structured in the fact that he has subjects that he's going to talk about within his long form podcast.
Another thing that we can do is, like Tim, Joe Rogan, a lot of people, Joe Rogan's show isn't necessarily structured, but one of the things that he does is or not him, most likely it's Jamie that's doing it, is you can still go onto YouTube and you can find clips, and it'll just be a subject about that one clip.
Right.
What Joe thinks about this, or what and Tim does the same thing. You can watch the entire Tim IRL, or you can just watch these little clips that of something cool that was said in the middle of it.
Right. So in order to do that, we'd have to make sure we have to record every episode.
Right.
And then put up a clip about it later.
Yep.
Work.
Right.
Well, that's one of our. It's always been our major problem.
Yeah.
That we've also known that stuff like needing to have a better social presence.
Yeah, I know.
On Instagram,
I don't chat
Twitter,
or go on Facebook, or do any of that stuff.
I loathe Facebook.
Right.
The 2016 election, I probably go on Facebook now once a month, once every 2-3 months.
Maybe I should start an OnlyFans.
I mean, I don't do any of that stuff. I mean, so technically, like you said, what should we do? We should record it. We should have a pad of paper out here and write down certain, it's like, oh, that's a good one.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. And when did it happen? I have, I can,
Right.
It's somewhere around 16 minutes in, blah, 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 and then make a clip out of it. And that clip should probably go as many places as we could possibly put it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which is funny because you see people say that you need to shotgun it out everywhere. And then I watch successful people say,
right,
build it on 1 or 2 places, and
right.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
Focus your audience there and then go.
Because it's funny, like Tim, I mean, he really, you can say he was self-made more than anybody else, because he started the whole dang thing with, all he was doing at first was just reading the news.
Yeah.
And it was nobody else in the room. I mean, I think his audience grew and everything became cooler when he started doing Timcast IRL, where he had that group of people, even though some of them are kind of,
They've gotten better.
But
it's funny. It's funny. You can see the fight within Ian. He's starting to understand.
Well,
some things
he was,
but he still spits out some really dumb stuff.
He was still. I mean, he was on point when he was talking about Tim Kennedy and the pullout of Afghanistan and all that stuff, and how pissed off he was that we literally let 40,000 people stay there and get killed. Most likely, we don't know what happened to them, but most likely they're dead. And all of that equipment, etc., that we just kind of just gave him. Like, here you go.
Right. He was.
So, 100%.
But the interesting thing, though, is when he went on that rant, here's where he's changed. Before, there would always have been, in that rant, we should have never been there in the first place.
Well, yeah.
No, he would say that. That would be the preface of everything. We should have never been there in the first place. Blah, 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 no war, blah, blah, blah. That's starting to curb out of his language a little bit, He's starting to realize that, until everybody can hold hands and sing Kumbaya, you have to protect yourself. And you can't force people to sing Kumbaya. I mean, that's a dystopian hell that nobody wants to live. That is equilibrium. That's
trying to think of other pop culture references. Hurry
Stallone.
up. Demolition Man.
Gosh. Those are the societies where you fake it just to get along,
Be well.
You will, yeah. Well, at least there they were kind of bought into it, whereas in Equilibrium, you know, they neutered themselves. They neutered their
right. The thing is
what is it? Chemically castrated.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say.
Our government and the governments of the world are kind of just doing the let's try everything approach. So yeah, some people are chemically castrating themselves. Some people are, you know, voluntarily going into live their life in a virtual reality. I mean,
I watched Jordan put out a little PSA, Jordan Peterson, about why he was joining the Daily Wire Plus, you know. And one of the little segments in there he's talked about is him and Shapiro. They have a tour plan for next year. They're going over to Europe, a lot of Eastern Europe countries, I think, to talk about the ramifications of communism that ravaged their countries in the wake of the fact that it seems to be rearing its ugly head in America so much. And people,
I think it's a great idea.
And people don't seem to understand,
right?
You know, and if they can't see direct parallels between the beginning of it there and the beginning of it here, then, you know, they're just we're gonna be 20 years into it, and they're gonna be
well,
or
yeah, I mean,
they'll be at the gulag already going,
right? But
why am I here?
It's great to hear from people that have historically seen the atrocities. But what's funny, you know, is because we live in this. I mean, everybody, you know, gets up, goes to work, et cetera, every day, and you know their lives are, you know, pretty much focused on, you know, their day-to-day routine. But then you have things like Facebook and, you know, Instagram and all these other social platforms where people get on there, and it seems like it's cut down everybody's view of the world to memes and sound bites. And it's funny because you know, and so people will post stuff that they just think is clever. Like, this is one of the reasons I hate getting on Facebook is I'll go on there and I'll find these friends that I've had forever posting really stupid shit from, you know, like it's what's that one place that churns it out? There's one of these left-leaning meme generator people out there. But anyway, so they'll post something that they think is relevant or funny or whatever.
Sorry.
And
there we go.
well, at least they didn't zoom in and up your nose or anything.
Yeah.
This person posted, you know, just a reminder, you know, when as we're celebrating the 4th of July, which, you know, was just recently, just a reminder, you know, the United States was founded by, you know, it had all the old cliche stuff. It was saying that it was founded by a bunch of old rich white men, blah blah blah, you know, and other people were just kind of, you know, parroting that or liking it, you know, type of thing. And what I wrote back was, these men that they talk about, these old men, they weren't old, first of all.
Yeah, I was surprised to learn how young some of them were.
You know, and you know, they could have chose a queen or king style monarchy, but they didn't. And that should be the reminder that everybody's telling, you know, just a reminder. We had a bunch of men that could have fucked up our future, but chose instead to give the power to the people.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
Unlike Stalin, unlike Lenin, after his revolt, seized the power And then, so that, to make sure that everything goes properly, right? He seized the power. Same thing with Castro. Seized the power. Mao seized the power. He didn't.
Right.
He didn't relinquish the power to the people.
Well, I mean,
to be equally distributed throughout the country, which is what they fought for.
Right. But I mean, if you look at the history of all these different conflicts, trying to remember in Vietnam, I'm trying to remember the name of that guy, the leader.
Mao Zedong? No, Pol Pot.
No.
In Vietnam?
Anyway, yeah, in Vietnam.
Ho Chi? No.
The Ho Chi Minh, yeah. The Ho Chi Minh Trail?
Yeah, the Ho Chi Minh Trail.
Anyway, he, before France was there, before anything there, he led a revolt and, toppled the government that was there, and that's why he was so popular with the people, and, they, worshipped him type of thing. And once again, these, after all these different revolts in history, there's that choice that these leaders have to make, where they can give the power back to the people, or they can become this symbol of leadership and become this living God. And unfortunately, every one of them, usually chooses that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Well, it's amazing how, more and more these leaders are on the right, conservative leaders, like Beck and Tim Pool and these guys.
mm-hmm.
They keep referring this stuff as a cult. The new woke ideologies is a cult. But it's interesting when you look back and you're looking at those old leaders that you're talking about who seized power for themselves, turned their political ideology into a cult.
Well, what's funny is
because they were the one who then became worshipped. They were the God King. You know what I mean? Like,
if you look at all these, historical, revolutions type thing, Che Guevara, you name it. Sometimes to me, if I'm reading the history correctly, they don't ever get into it because they're looking to be the leader. They get into it because they're trying to survive and they're trying to fight tyranny. They're fighting a tyrannical government all by themselves, and that they end up winning. And like I said, it's at that point where they had to make this choice. And what's funny and ironic is they end up choosing to be the new tyrant, and put the people still under a tyrannical, government. And it's like, in history, you can at least point at America and say, we didn't do that.
Well, except for the last couple years.
Well, yeah.
Ever since Bush won, maybe in the Clinton, we've started letting presidents take executive power.
Right.
Special emergency powers. We've been giving them so much.
Well, what I don't
leeway.
understand, and I mean, I guess this has been talked about on so many different podcasts, is we never have any leaders that, who are running for office that ever talk about overturning any of this stuff. It's like, I would love to have some, conservative or whoever, even I would even vote for a liberal or a leftist if he ran on the platform. It's like, yeah, we're just going to get rid of that Homeland Security thing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need that. The NFA, fuck that. We don't need the NFA. Hell, what I would really love to see is somebody run on the platform of, I want to get rid of the Department of Education. I would champion that in a second.
Yeah.
Because these teachers that are being protected by the government so they can groom kids, no, not good.
Well, I was watching a thing online where this Berkeley law professor was being asked about what define women and having children, and she then just went off on her own saying, trans men can have children, blah blah. And he goes, "You mean women?" And she goes, "You're being mean," and he's like, "Okay." And then so he asked if a living baby, a child after birth, has value, and there's a long pause, and she said yes, and he said, "Does the unborn baby have value? You're putting strain on the community. What you really blah blah blah." And she wouldn't answer the question, and pretty much he said, "That's not the question I asked. Answer the question." She goes, "No, but this is a much more important topic." And it was funny because Beck was like, in her law class, if she asked for you to write a paper on the merits of abortion or whatever as a law student, but you turned the paper in on giraffes, and then she looked at it and goes, "Well, what's this?" "Well, this is a much better topic." Much more. Do you think you'd still get a good grade?
Right.
It's like that's the same argument. That was the same thing she was doing. It's she was one of those people who did the huge wide-eyed, the crazy eyes.
Right.
When she talked.
Yeah.
See, this is how we get off on tangents, which is fine.
Talking about stories, I finally started working more on that the path.
The path.
Remember I wanted to do a book about the steps to evil.
Oh.
Kind of a.
Well, that's what both Saturday Time and A Town Called Liberty really is about.
Well, yes, but
even the one I was working, I want to do Rat's Nest is a lot like that.
But I just want, I want to write a book, and I've finally discovered that, because I was trying to think of this.
We should do a superhero book that way.
Yeah, I wanted to show I wanted to have some perfect short story to, where you could show, fear, anger, hate, fabrication. There's all these different steps that I go through that people do on all the stuff that happens in your mind where you justify your actions. Because first, the definition of evil that I chose is anything that any action that you do that's against your own moral code. Of course, the argument there would be is, well, what if you don't have a moral code? But that's bullshit. Everybody has a moral code. But
psychopaths don't.
But I mean, I went through. There was I went through some elaborate stories where how in high school type stuff where a new kid moves into town and becomes friends with this group of this small group, and one of the people in the group is scared that he's going to lose his best friend to this new kid, so that's the fear, everything usually starts there. And so he starts, basically making up stories about the new kid, so he gives himself permission to hate the kid. And then, you keep on doing that, and eventually you get to the point where you're justifying stealing his lunch money or whatever, the act is that's, that would normally be against or something that you would think is morally wrong.
Right.
And I even did one where it was an actual, kind of a short story. I did a little story about your clerk working at a convenience store on the overnight shift, and a guy that you don't recognize comes in and goes directly to the back of the store and is just kind of hanging around back by the beer cooler. And he's wearing a hood and dark clothes and has his hands in his pockets. and is just kind of pacing around in the back. And of course, you are afraid because you don't know the guy. He's acting strange, and so you double check to make sure that your firearm's right here, and then you start just all the other steps. You start making up stuff in your head. Well, he looks like he's done this before. All that kind of stuff, and basically, so the guy, you see the guy pull down his beanie into a mask, and he starts moving towards the front, and everything happens in a matter of seconds, but you're still going through all those steps where you have to defend yourself, and you shoot this guy, which that is in your own, that would be morally wrong. I know it's morally wrong to shoot somebody, even though it's in self-defense, but you justify your actions in that split second. It's either him or me type of thing. So but the reason I want to write this story is I want to write in along that path as your mind's going through these things, and you're making up a history about somebody, because I've been on the receiving end as a manager at places where somebody won't like you. They'll start suddenly, before you know it, you're accused of doing drugs, and you're like, what do you mean, type of thing, and people will literally say, well, I saw you coming out of the bathroom and you were doing this. It's like, oh, that's perfect. that must mean that I'm sniffing coke in the bathroom. That's evidence. But people take all these so-called evidence and they make up these stories so they can convince themselves that they're justified in their hatred of you. And once they get to that point of hate, then everything else after that is you're justified in your actions. It's just like nowadays in our pop culture and in our real culture, I should say, is words are now considered violence. It's like so when somebody says something bad, you're now justified to smash them in the face with a brick. But yeah, but I would love to write this book. I want it for young readers to be able to recognize what you're doing when you're inventing these things, and all of these steps along the path to evil. I want to write in a way to get out, to stop, to realize, oh shit, I'm on this path. I need to get the fuck off this path. Even if it's the first step where, you're afraid that you're going to lose your best friend or whatever, going back to that high school thing, you're afraid. Maybe it's best to just recognize that you're afraid of that and have a conversation, with your friend and the new guy.
Maybe that's the reason why they fight against religion so badly, because
like in that other story where the guy comes in dressed in black and looking weird and goes to the back of the store. Maybe it's best when you see that to go step in the back room for a second. Maybe call somebody and say, hey, weird shit's about to go down. You might still have to, defend yourself, but if the guy sees you leave, you steal his ability to rob the cash register, because he has to have somebody he points his gun at and says, give me all your money. And if there's nobody there to say, give me all your money, great.
Right. Right. Well, that's what, it just reminds me of everything taught growing up, you know what I mean? That's
the problem is I don't think any of this kind of stuff is taught anymore.
Well, not anymore. because and that's what I was saying. I wonder if that's the true reason of destroying religion.
Oh God, yeah.
Was so that you could get people to just be like this, you know.
Destroy religion, destroy family.
Yeah, just destroy that moral code, because that's what you're, you know. I don't know how many times, and I have personal things about, you know, when a senior says hi to you in the hall, and he's like one of the top football guys, you know, he didn't have to say hi to lonely little freshman walking by.
Right.
But, you know, when he says hi to you, and it's good, you know. And why did he say hi to that? Because he learned from his dad and from others that, you know,
be nice,
being kind,
right?
You know, and even if his buddies, oh, what are you doing talking to the freshman?
Right.
You know, there was a song the primary kids grew up, the little kids grew up singing, "Choose the right." Right. Choose the right. Let the consequences follow. Do what is right. Let the consequences follow. Battle for freedom in spirit and light. So the whole idea, though, is what kind of what Peterson's been trying to tell everybody. Tell the truth, and let the consequences happen.
Right.
You know, don't lie.
Right.
And why are so many kids being attracted to him? What? That's revolutionary.
Yeah, it's a shock to the system.
How is that revolutionary? That's supposed to be something. I mean, and this is a problem. I've talked about this before. Is like, that was the lessons you got on Leave It to Beaver. Those are the lessons you learned on the Andy Griffith Show. Those are, you know, all these old shows that now when you watch them, I talk about so saccharine, sugary, you know, they're so goody two-shoed, you know.
Well, I was trying to, I can't remember who that was talking about it. I think it was on Timcast when it was when Landau was there, but somebody was mentioning that, or maybe it was somebody else, but somebody was mentioning that, you know, Hollywood in the past, you know, you'd have these big name, you know, stars like John Wayne, blah, 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 going all the way back to that time. And they were all patriotic and outspoken about, you know,
mostly,
now
yeah.
Hollywood despises normal.
The idea of putting the American flag as Captain America on Chris Evans' body was sacrilegious. It really was.
Right.
That might have been the most sacrilegious thing.
What was funny is when Chris Evans did that Snowpiercer.
Yeah.
Remember that movie? Snowpiercer was actually written by a Korean, I believe, author, and it was it was the whole everything, you know, the movie itself, the screenplay, etc. was adapted and stuff by the same author, but the guy's a communist, socialist, whatever you want to call it. But it's funny to me how, you know, because socialism, you know, talks about, you know, class systems, and that's what that whole thing was. That train represented all the different classes as you moved up towards the front. And it's funny how, you know, socialism and stuff, you know, they talk about the classes, and so does capitalism. You know, they have that in common, where they talk about, you know, this division of classes and stuff. But it's like, you know, socialism's only answer is to destroy the system and start over. And capitalism is the only system that lets people literally jump from class to class.
That's because capitalism acknowledges the classes. Mm-hmm. Socialism goes, there's no class separation here.
That's bullshit, because
that's bullshit.
when you see these
Kim Jong-un.
What's her name? The Park, whatever, the one that escaped from North Korea.
Oh yeah.
And how many class systems there was there?
57.
57.
57 class system. Right. And what did we all do?
Right.
Because why? Because nobody will acknowledge that there are class systems within communism, or within just.
Yes, because they're supposed to be equal. It's a utopia.
Yeah. Tim made a slide comment the show the other day about everybody always goes back and has to reference 1984. Well, the reason why is because it's so glaring. I mean, it's so painted right there for you. That's the reason why people reference it all the time.
Well, it's funny because
there's caste systems there.
1984 is basically pop culture now, where that we talk about it, and but then culture turns around and copies it, and for God, I don't remember how many years ago it is now, but you had those professors that were trying to prove, or did prove in their mind, that 2 + 2 does equal 5.
Yeah. Well, it's like with what's his name? Oh, of course it can if it was 2.56.
Right.
And 2.56.
Right.
Did anybody say 2.56 and 2.56 equals 4? No. Fucker. Sorry, everybody. But no. Everybody said 2 plus 2. That means 2.0, you moron. And 2.0 equals 4.
Well, yeah. It's just
nobody said the other. Stop being stupid.
It's just like the gasoline prices, It's like, oh, look, it's only $5.29 now. It's $5.29 and 9/10, which means it's $5.30.
Right.
Every gas station does that, but yeah. Once again, I mean, it's funny how
you can't fix stupid.
Well, what's funny is these guys that say stuff like this, they think they're the most clever person ever, and to me it goes back to when I first started into playing role-playing games and stuff, where I remember reading, I think it was in a D&D book, no, it was in Marvel, that Marvel had their own RPG, and they were talking about rule lawyers, guys who read all the books and then find some little loophole to skirt the system, that would make their character God. And it's like,
well, everybody,
and that's what these people, they think they're so damn clever.
Well, and that's what makes me roll my eyes sometimes too with the other side of things. It's like, and we've talked about this before. When 2A sympathizers, Crowder, Tim was doing it when they first got into guns, Their argument to win the argument is because you called an AR an assault rifle.
Right.
Okay. Stop nitpicking on stuff like that. Understand what they're saying. The assault rifle looks like a military rifle. Right. So, and it's like on the show the other night when they kept on talking about drugs, and what did that idiot have to say? Ian. Right. Well, we really have to classify what we're talking about when we're talking about drugs, because aspirin's a drug. No, fucker. We're talking about drugs in the slang of cocaine, heroin. Yeah. That's slang. It's American slang, you dumb. Oh my gosh. Right. You say it just to derail the argument. You say it thinking you're smart, but all you're doing is showing your contempt, your idiocy, I don't understand it. He just it's he really needs somebody to sit across from him when he says stuff like that. Just look at him like,
right.
I mean, and literally look at him like, that might be the dumbest thing that's.
Thanks for making that point.
I think Mr. Ed has said smarter stuff out of his mouth than you. I mean. Yeah,
but it's funny. Did you?
Gosh.
I mean, I know I tried to turn you on to him. I don't know if I did though. Do you watch Guns and Gadgets? That guy. that does 2A news mostly.
Mm-mm.
He just does the channel pretty much by himself. But there was a did you see there was a bill that was submitted from Michael Moore about guns? Did you read that?
No, was that one in California?
No, it was a bill that went to the federal, and it was basically a bill which will never get any traction. But he wanted to show it just so he could show how stupid people are. And it was a proposal by Michael Moore, a bill, an actual bill that was submitted to Congress or whatever you want to, and it had all these different, little blurbs, and one of them is like banning all automatic and semi-automatic firearms, blah 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 blah, and he just went through it and he was laughing at everything. He's like, so automatic and semi-automatic, that means everything, absolutely every gun. And it's like these people make these proposals, but they don't even know what the terminology is.
Oh, but
once again, they think they're just so damn clever.
Yeah, but I mean, most everything's semi-automatic.
Everything is semi-automatic.
Right.
A revolver is actually a semi-automatic weapon. The only difference is it does not use a magazine; it uses a cylinder. That's it.
Well, the only difference
every time you pull the trigger, it goes bang. That is
right.
Semi-automatic.
Well, the automatic though is you pulling the back to move the cylinder in a single action.
In single action, yes.
But a semi-auto is it uses the combustion to rechamber. That might be the only thing with the semi-automatic, because it automatically rechambers the next round.
Right.
But you could say that you doing it yourself is the automatic part.
Well, I mean, that would just would mean that we don't only have bolt action and pump action.
You know what you do with stuff like that?
Action.
All you do is create cynics. All you do is, because you know what, first thing that leapt in my mind that drives me to, all right, I'm going to put a bill that bans sugar. I'm going to ban high fructose corn syrup. I'm going to ban.
Well, I think we should ban high fructose corn syrup.
I'm going to ban. I'm going to ban over 2,200 calories a day. Live with that fat ass, Michael Moore. Let's see. No, seriously. See how he lives then.
Right.
He wouldn't be able to do it.
Right.
You can't do that. You can't tell me what I can eat, what I can't eat. Oh yeah.
Right.
It seems like there's a big push right now to get people to do that.
I remember when I first watched that stupid Bowling for Columbine, and the first, I don't know, third of the movie is him talking about how he's been a lifelong NRA member, blah 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 blah, gun owner, and then it's like, bam, complete flip, and wants to ban everything, and I'm like, if you were truly a gun owner and NRA member, supposedly your whole life, I have a hard time believing that somehow that was just pushed out of your mind. Once again, I mean, like the path to evil that I was, in the story, where in his mind did he justify that he alone, well, not alone, unfortunately, there's way too many people I think like him, he had the right to tell somebody else how to live their life? Because that's what we're talking about.
They all have immense egos. I don't
ever think that I never want to be using that kindergarten psychology of little Billy wrote on the wall with crayon, so nobody gets crayons anymore. That is a kindergarten teacher thinking, and we got to get rid of that shit because it's morally wrong.
Right. Well, that's what, once again, 84 is all about. They keep on finding new words to ban because they'll keep on finding new stuff.
Right.
New stuff. And like I said, You want to go down that road? We can start playing that. You know, I mean, we'll go down that road and we'll see what people like The Rock enjoys with the 2,500 calorie diet, and we'll see what Michael Moore feels like with 25 when he has to actually eat a vegetable. You know, and stop touching. Never mind. But,
Right.
Because all you're going to do is create resentment. All you're going to do is going to create what's that that idea of well, if I'm going to go to hell, might as well get myself a big mansion. Right? I might as well be a boss there. Mm-hmm. So let me go do the most damage I can. Same thing. Well, if we're going to live in it,
yep.
Let's live in it, buddies. All right, let's go. Come on, let's go. I'm going to ban everything.
Right.
I'm going to go biblical. I'm going to go old school, Old Testament, Deuteronomy about the Sabbath day. How many steps does it take you to go from your house to temple, do the things at temple, back home, prepare your meals, and go to bed and get up? Is that 6,000 steps in a day or 10,000? You know, say it's 6,000 steps. If you go one step over, you've sinned. Mm-hmm. And that ain't no lie. There's people who would sit down in the middle of the road and have to wait till Sabbath's over and wait for the sun to go down at midnight before they get up and walk again.
Right.
Yeah, well, hey, let's go for it, you know. You've sinned against the state if you haven't done more than 10,000 steps in a day, and you'll wear a tracker that tracks back to the through an app to the state that says whether or not you've done it. No. You've got to be physically fit. You have to record everything you've eaten, which will be probably prepared meals. You know, I mean, come on, let's go. Well,
you're speaking their language.
I mean, but the problem is there's too many people out there who don't understand that, and won't understand until they're far too late. Or the people that, like Michael Moore, he only wants to talk about certain things, you know, gun control.
Well, what's funny is
he doesn't understand where it's gonna go.
Well, that's just it. I mean, look at the history as 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when I would bring up that they want to ban this or they want to do this. They're coming for our guns, and at that time, years ago, was the left's answer was, "Oh, nobody's coming for your guns."
Right.
You're just making this stuff up in your mind. And, so everybody on the conservative side would just shrug their shoulders and say, okay, if that's what you believe. And now it's, they don't hide it. It's like, you got the conservatives screaming, they're coming for our guns. And on the left, they're saying, yep, sure are. Mm-hmm. It's like, holy shit. That's the way,
And just like way back when they wanted gay marriage, right. Nobody's coming after your children.
Nobody's grooming your kids.
And now they're saying, yes, we are.
Yes, they're grooming your kids. And it's freely admitted. You got teachers going online every day with their rainbow hair or, green, purple, whatever color.
Is that something you know? In the chat?
Oh.
This looks like a Rasmussen from here.
Yep, that's Aiden. That's my son.
Aiden?
Yeah.
What's up, bro?
Before we went on, I texted them both and said that we were going live. Anyway, but so nothing's hidden anymore. I mean, some might call that refreshing, that at least they're not denying what they're doing anymore, but it's just scary now.
Yeah.
And once again, they're going to set us down on that path, because conservatives, or at least the ones that are paying attention, all of us are afraid right now. We're on those first few steps. I guarantee you, we're going to do evil actions because, this stuff is justified in our mind.
Well, the worst part is...
You start taking away my property, I guarantee you, my mind's going to justify my actions.
Mm-hmm. Well, the funny thing, too, is what they don't want to understand and consider, too, is the people who are trying to lead you on this path are... After the war, after whatever conservatives are left, those are the ones that are going to, okay, I'll do what you tell me to do. I've been licked. I'm going to follow the rules. What they don't understand is the purge that will come, and it won't be from the losing side. They won't purge those people because they would have already died in the war. The purge that goes through the left when that happens. You think that, oh, we won't do that. Oh, come on. I mean, just think about, just think right now. If you're on the left, can you give up control of what something means to the guy next to you? You already can't do that.
Right. And that's why I don't.
You're not allowed. You won't do that.
That's why I don't think when anybody, because usually the people that say the words amicable divorce, when they start talking about country splitting, it's usually people in the middle that may not be political one way or the other. They always talk about, well, maybe it's best if we just let them split this way and let them split that way. But no, the left's not going to let the world split because they already know that.
Well, the fact
if the more they own, the stronger they will be.
Well, it's just like we were talking about earlier. The fact that you won't take somebody else's opinion, even on your own side, right next to you, lets you know that when they take power, they won't give it back to the people.
Nope.
Because once they have it, they will think that they are the smartest person in the room,
right.
And so then they will have to dish out the understanding, as it will come to be known, as they kill you, as they do all kinds of horrible acts to you.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it seems like the blueprint's already been drawn. The way that the left's going to take over this country and possibly the world is it's all going to be through corporate means. Pretty soon we're going to have a corporate-ruled country. It's going to be like RoboCop.
The only way that won't happen is if we can set up our communities with infrastructure right now so that when they do make a mandate, everybody can say, I don't have to have it bought on Amazon. I can buy it from them. Oh, so I don't get so-and-so's flagship phone anymore.
Right.
Theirs is almost as good.
Right.
I can live with that one. You know what I mean? And that's the only way is if we're willing to build these infrastructure. And that's what people are starting to do.
Right.
All this talk about this path road to evil.
Yeah. All this talk from me, you mean?
Right. Well, in a town called Liberty, in our first book with John, I've been obsessed in the writing about showing his path to evil.
Right. Justifying in his own mind.
Showing his path. Well, for him, it's not so much evil, but it's
an immoral act.
But it's him getting to the point where he's willing to say why, right? Or what is it
they're hiding?
Why is he willing to throw away his life to find out the information? And I, we've talked about my ideas about that, and I've had some more. And it was like, because I had that epiphany that happens to him when he gets the award, I'm somebody, or whatever. You know, I'm famous now. I'm somebody,
Well,
type of thing.
That same type of thing happens in the real world when you're talking about transgenders.
Well, it
Because
happens.
like the girls, as far as I, it's funny because in a few short years we went from having a population of transgender people they were I think it was like 0.5% of the population in America, and now it's up to 2 to 3% now.
Yeah.
And it's mostly girls, which really makes me wonder what girls are watching online, and what usually is, and when you actually have people that are brave enough to tell their story about, why they transitioned, etc. Almost all of them, girls, they reach a point in their development where, they're super hormonal and they feel depressed, and there's pain involved because you get your period and all these different things happen. I don't know, I'm not a girl.
Gain some weight,
and they
get
feel
pimples,
they feel horrible
braces,
and disgusting, and then they go online and somebody says to them, well, maybe you're really a boy.
Yeah.
And then they just go down this path where they're talked into trying hormones, or they're talked into all this different things, and pretty soon they're transitioning. And like Tim had that one girl on his podcast, she detransitioned, or whatever you want to call it, got off the hormones and all that stuff. But they just don't know what they're doing, but they're being talked into this stuff. And the reason that they're doing it is because they feel like John felt in that moment, accepted.
Right. Well, they get validated.
Validated. Thank you.
They get validated through posts. They get validated through likes. They get validated with retweet, with resubmitting their words.
Right.
And that's what I thought it would be fun. They have John and his girlfriend Beth have that walk home after that.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it'd be fun to do stuff like, have you ever seen the sky so blue? No, like everything. They're having their burger and milkshake.
Right.
He puts milkshake. Taste it. They've done something. They've had to have changed the recipe. This has got to be the best milkshake I've ever had. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like everything in his life has now changed.
Right.
And so because of that, as he starts to learn the truth of how, I was given this and then it's all taken away from me, that dives him down into that despair of willing to throw it all away. Because what he thought was real wasn't real.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that might be some fun little stuff to interject into into that little section there of their little, when she's talking to him, he's like, oh yeah, right, I can fix this, I can do that, because I'm the new man on the block, or the new person on the block.
And she's supportive,
and she's just being supportive,
right?
But she doesn't realize that he is fundamentally changed.
Yeah.
It's like that movie Dope Sick. If you watch that show on Hulu, Dope Sick, they talk about oxycodone and the fact that it actually fundamentally rewires the brain. Mm-hmm. It actually creates new pathways, and it makes you feel like you're gonna die if you don't have it in your system.
Right.
You don't. It's like you don't care. You're not doing it for the high. you're doing it because you literally think you're gonna die. And the only way people have been able to, that nobody's been able to beat it.
Right.
The only way people have been able to manage it is to have to convince themselves on a daily basis they're not gonna die. I mean, that movie.
Well, yeah. I mean,
that show had a twist on it.
Little hat tip to the writers of the old Star Trek: The Next Generation, because they had the same thing. If you remember that one episode where they go to a planet and there's two planets that are that trade with each other. One planet's super rich, and the other planet they are just basically provide food for the super rich planet and provide all this stuff, but they're all addicted to this chemical basically that's produced by the super rich planet. And at one point, you know, the super rich planet cuts them off because they're not getting, you know, enough groceries basically from the other planet, and, you know, and the Enterprise comes in and realizes that there's not some miracle drug that cured their sickness from a long time ago. It's a drug, you know, like heroin or whatever that they're all addicted to, and when they start to come down off of it, they start going through the withdrawals that are real bad, and they all think they're going to die.
Oh, it was fascinating. You know, Michael Keaton character is a doctor who didn't want to prescribe it because all the things that he knows about that type of drug spat in the evidence of what they were claiming it would do. But he had somebody who was really hurt, so he gave this, and then it started working for a couple people. So he had this one girl that got really hurt, and you know, he had delivered her, you know, so he was like, oh, try it, see what happens, and then he finally got into a car accident, so he started taking it, and he spirals out of control. But then he goes to rehab.
Right.
Did I tell you about that?
No, but I actually I don't know which podcast it was talking about Dope Sick. I've never seen it, but
he goes.
There was one scene where they were talking about how, you know, this person comes in and is talking to Michael Keaton and saying, I really admire you for all the work you've done and blah 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 blah.
Well, he was the salesman,
right, and
that sold him the oxy, and he was the one who told him, you know, here's all the studies that have been done. You know, he's the one who convinced him that it was okay to use,
right,
and everything, and Keaton would take him to lunch, and kind of mentored him in his up, you know, and he was saying all this stuff about how he thought of him like a father, and he really appreciated all the extra time.
He's like, can I get some money?
No, he actually leans forward and goes, is there any way I can get a prescription?
Right.
Some, you know, or some samples. Do you have any samples that I could? And you're just like blown away. That
very clever writing.
It was just like, what? You know, and then at the end, he finally, you know, he gets to that point where he's existing day from day. He's never completely out of it. He always has to get up every day and just be like, it's gonna be shitty today.
Right.
But I'm alive. You know, the little girl didn't make it out. She died. So many people have died from that stuff.
I always love our conversations where every once in a while I'll just stop and go, how did we get to this?
So how did we get to this? So that's what I did. I just stopped and said, okay, so here we are. So
I don't remember how we got to this subject.
Do we need structure in our podcast?
No. I mean,
well, not
because we each time we broach a subject, I mean, this is the way I feel. I mean, yes, we can cut it down to, but the thing is
well, I don't think we have to cut it down.
If we ever start writing scripts, I don't want us to feel like that we're reading from a piece of paper and then we turn page and then we go blah blah and we start doing the Joe Biden thing where
I don't think that
salute to the camera.
Repeat line.
But what's funny is, and
if you think he said that ironically,
every time we get on a subject, I think we explore that subject quite well.
Yeah.
And I think those would make very good clips, but we just have to have the time to actually go through and clip something out and submit it to YouTube, because I think that system of putting little clips on is what brings people to your podcast. Personally, I think because well,
another thing that would help that I don't do very well is descriptions. A lengthy description in our header of what's in the podcast.
Well, that's just it. I mean, what's funny is I'll jump on a Timcast IRL, and the headline or whatever you want to call it, the descriptor is like, Elon Musk, is no longer buying Twitter or whatever type of thing. And so you'll jump on there, and the first 5 lines are about Elon, where it's just Tim going, okay, in today's news, Elon Musk is no longer buying Twitter. And then they go on to every other subject under the sun, and that was, the headline. It's like, well, shit.
And that's when I turn it off. Seriously, I got tired of listening to him. It's like...
But
I'm not here for your opinion. The only opinion I'm here for is whether or not the article was fake news or real news.
Right.
It's pretty much, it's like this article came out today, blah blah. Here's why it's fake or
right.
or real, And
well, that's why you need to watch that Guns and Gadgets guy. I think as far as just 2A news, that's all he covers. So far he's the best at it, my opinion. Jared is his name. Good job, Jared. But yeah, he just covers 2A stuff. Because believe me when I tell you out there, whoever's watching, Aiden probably.
And I'm sure you never hear this before.
Yeah. There's gun
this
bills.
Again, Dad.
There's gun bills introduced all the damn time.
Oh yeah.
And every time I hear about this new gun bill being introduced here in this state, or a new gun bill being introduced in federally, or a new gun bill being introduced, in California or whatever, I always think to myself, do Republicans ever write bills? Because all I ever hear about is...
Doesn't seem like it.
The Democrats' bill to ban this, or the Democrats' bill to, increase taxes on ammunition, the Democrats' bill for this, and none of this shit's passing, which is good. So you can say, okay, but they don't need to pass it, because the ATF thing, where they basically change the words to make all parts considered firearms. And now if you go online, which I recently did, go online and buy some gun parts and had shipped to me, they shipped and they arrived, no problem. But then, Jared from Guns and Gadget comes on and starts talking about how UPS and FedEx and all of these shippers are now scared to death, and they're sending out letters to all of their people and saying, if we find out that you're shipping gun parts, we're just going to destroy your packages.
Right.
It's like, great. Now we don't even need the government to police us, because we police ourselves. This is just like when the movie industry started putting ratings on their movies. You would think that was the government that did that. No, it was the movie companies themselves that started that whole, R rating, X-rating bullshit, because they didn't want the government to be involved in it. But it's just so stupid. We're literally corporate. Like I said before, the corporate world is taking over the government. We're no longer ruled by the government because it's easier for Biden to have the corporations, censor people and destroy packages and all this kind of stuff. He doesn't have to do a damn thing.
Just have to get some ideologues working for you.
Mm-hmm. It's like, I guess the government can step back and say, well, we don't censor anybody.
Right.
It's like, yeah, you're right. Corporate America censors people. It's just like Biden, coming out and saying, well, it's the gas stations that control gas prices. Since when?
Since when? Most people don't know that when they say, $5.40 for gas, the gas station bought it for $5.39.
Right.
People don't understand the gas station makes 1 to 2 pennies per gallon.
Yep.
That's how much they bought it for.
Yep.
They are not making giant profit.
I mean,
that you think they're making, they're not making it. Right. The people who refine the gas are making it.
I mean, I bet you the gas companies or the gas stations wished that they could just charge whatever the fuck they wanted.
And if you go to a Shell and you go to a Chevron and you think that is owned by Shell or Chevron, wrong. That is somebody who started a gas station and then branded it.
Yeah.
All it is buying a franchise license.
Yep.
It's just like if somebody wants to go open up a Pizza Hut or go open up a McDonald's, all you're doing is buying a brand license. And then you get access to their gasoline. Right. That you buy at their price.
And that's what,
So the gas station is not the problem. That's why
when you go to a gas station, one of the big chains like 7-Eleven or whatever, when you go to them and you go and look at all their snacks and stuff now, they have their own brand of food. Mm-hmm. And the only reason they have their own brand of food is because that's where they're going to make their money.
Right. That's why they all start putting those little hot...
Yeah, the little rollers.
Hot dogs.
Right.
Breakfast burrito, or they make
taquitos.
Pizzas or taquitos. Yeah, they do all that stuff. That's where they start making their money.
Yes. They don't make money on anything else.
They make money off of gas. I mean, they probably buy 16,000 gallons of gas.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's only like $1,600.
Yeah.
It's not as much as we did. They really make the money off the concessions.
Mm-hmm. True. It's in a lot of ways it is like movies. At least I can say I've worked in movie theater type business before.
Gosh, we went and saw a movie yesterday. They gave us a gift card because we saw it through my wife's work. They ran it off the theater, and standing there looking to see what to get. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how expensive everything is.
Yeah.
I would say one perspective.
Yeah.
Get like this milkshake. They call it a milkshake, but really all it is ice cream, candy shoved in it.
Right.
Type stuff. And that actually, for $5, it's still overpriced, but I actually felt like I actually got, quote unquote, my money's worth from it. It was actually pretty substantial. I mean, I ate it. By the time I was done with it, it was like, that first one I first eat, it's like, man, maybe I should go back for a second one. But by the time I got done, it's like, oh, that was enough.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty good. I started doing the carnivore diet again.
Oh, cool.
So I've been doing it now for about a week and a half. And when we got there, I was looking like, well, what can I get? Nothing. So it's like, you can get a hot dog and just eat the hot dog.
Right.
I was like, I don't like straight hot dogs.
You don't like to suck the wiener?
Well, I just don't like, I don't know, I don't like straight hot dogs. in them, whatever. I always have to cut it with bread.
Well, what's funny is
I like the bun,
I'm kind of a hot dog snob. When it comes to like the old fashioned, generic Oscar Mayer wiener dogs, the skinless ones that we, for some reason, like out here in the West. Even though I've never really been to the East Coast, I like the East Coast skin on hot dogs, where when you bite into it, it snaps. God, those are so good compared to the skinless bullshit that we eat.
I'm surprised that Costco hot dogs are pretty good.
Oh, Costco dogs are good.
They're just regular hot dog, not the Polish one they sell up front.
I like the Polish one too.
Yeah, the Polish one's good.
Mm-hmm.
But the regular hot dog they have back there,
Yep.
it's actually really pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess you get spoiled. Because I found this one brand at Walmart. Believe it's Falls brand or whatever, but it's an old-fashioned skin-on hot dog. I buy those all the time. I guess it's considered a sausage, is what they label it, but they're actually still linked together in the package. Yeah, you have to cut them apart. So yeah, they're good.
I went to Nathan's when I was in New York, down in Coney Island.
Mm-hmm.
I did not like that one. I did not think that was a good hot dog.
Right.
There was a place up in on Broadway near Lincoln Center, somewhere around 50th, 49th, 47th, somewhere around there, called Frankfurter.
Mm-hmm.
That was good. It's one of those when they had them on the rollers, and
How did we get on hot dogs?
two for $1 on Tuesdays or something like that.
We need to have somebody that just tells us how the hell we got on these subjects.
I've been doing the carnivores.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Tough.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I remember the first time you went on carnivore, you lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
But you also, last time you went on carnivore, you had a son.
Well,
It's like, okay.
got that because she went on it.
Right. And she dropped a lot of weight, and you dropped a lot of weight. Which, it's great because I remember you were telling me that for the first time your back felt halfway decent.
Yeah, back felt better.
Mm-hmm. So.
But then she lost hours of work and we had to cut back, and so buying steaks and stuff was tough.
Right.
And then we had the kid, and everything goes to him. And
Yep.
so this time we're doing a lot more hamburger. I'm trying to eat a lot more burger patties and eggs and things like that. Still some steaks, but not as like then we were doing it every day.
Yep.
Well, that doesn't sound good. Fall.
I don't know if they can hear that on the.
Freezing, man. My kid's crying outside.
Yeah.
Oh, it's over on the side, so I bet he wanted to turn the water on, and she said no. My wife can only stay outside for so long. She gets hot, and she's like tired of it, and wants to come inside.
You need to buy her a big old sun hat so she can sit out there for hours. If you got a big brimmed hat, you can sit out there.
By this time of day, the sun is behind that big tree, and so you can sit in the shade.
Mm.
It doesn't matter. It's just being out in the hot. She hates being in the hot. She hates.
Well, yeah, her and the rest of the world. But yeah.
I tolerate it better. I want to stay out there longer with them and just play.
I let my daughter drive
What?
today.
Oh, well, was that scary?
Well, no, I mean it was okay. I mean, she drives just fine. But it was the first time because she's been training in a Honda Pilot, which, SUV-ish, smaller SUV-ish. But never really drove a sports car.
Yeah.
So she's like, wow, this thing has a lot more speed than the Pilot. I'm like, oh, shit.
Parents had a big Lincoln Town car. I think I took my driver's test in that. But I
My-
took it in the little Honda. Maybe I took it in the Honda.
Can you remember the first car you trained in, or the first time you drove? Do you remember what it was? Because mine was a Ford LTD station wagon.
First car?
Yeah. Then I drove
Might have
quite
been
a few trucks.
a Chevy Cavalier or something like that. The student. 'Cause, in high
Right.
school, I think it was a student. And then after that, like I said,
I don't think any of my high schools had those student cars.
parents' big Lincoln Town car. My brother let me drive his Mustang, I think.
Ooh.
But it was one of those Mustang 2s.
Oh.
And then I did most of my training was in our little Honda. My dad had this tiny little Honda Civic,
Nice.
little '79 Honda Civic,
But that's
'78 Honda Civic.
that's probably the best car to train in.
My friends all called it a pregnant roll street,
Right.
but little two-door hatchback.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Real easy to drive, kind of zippy. Yeah. Those are.
well, my dad had changed out the engine, put in the '80 Honda Accord engine in it,
Nice.
so it actually
It was really zippy.
had a lot more little than the other car. I used to love that car.
Right.
I took pride driving that one to school and parking, but I remember, I think coming home from church one day, he's like, "Here, you drive." Like, I really don't know how to drive stick. I'll learn on the way.
Yeah.
Sitting at the stoplight, stall it. And feeling embarrassed that everybody's watching you, grinding gears or stalling it,
Yeah. Hoping the girl in the next car over didn't see that.
But then later, my dad's telling me about how, if you get really good, you can shift gears without using the clutch.
Yep.
You know exactly when that timing comes, you can hit that gear. It's like, are you trying to teach me how to hot rod?
Well, my dad taught me the same thing.
I ended up getting a pretty hefty reputation for hot rodding,
Mm-hmm.
which grew in my favor because nobody wanted to let their kids drive with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have to chauffeur everybody. The only people I chauffeured were my friends,
Right.
whose parents, like my best friend Matt, he'd be like, "Hey, can I go to the movies tonight? Who you going with?" "Bruce." "Okay." It's just like,
Right.
if it was me, they didn't care.
Right.
But I guess I was a good kid other
You
than the driving. The driving was my vice.
you weren't the scumbag that was trying to corrupt anybody.
Yeah.
But
The
yeah.
worst I did. Oh, so bad. Is we had early morning seminary, early morning religious studies.
This sounds bad so far.
At the church building, and then we'd have to obviously go to the school, right? High school.
Right.
So everybody always carpooled. So our ex-bishop, he'd have his daughter and a bunch of other kids in his car,
Right.
and me and him would race to the school, which involved things like getting better position in the other lane, obviously, stopping people so that you get stuck behind lights,
Right.
cutting down this road. There'd be times you cut this way, he'd go that way, or you go that way, he cut that way, thinking which one's faster.
Right.
That was bad.
By the way, what are the blue lines on the?
The blue line is just
Oh, okay.
So I think that's my frame, or that's another frame.
I was just wondering.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there was a blue.
OBS,
I don't know if there was a blue line going through my face.
If I click on that, then I can make you big, make you small. Say something now. Oh, it flipped you.
What do you mean?
Oh no, that's right.
No, it still says Deadpool on my shirt normally.
So I think I had it.
Yeah, you had it covering that picture behind you.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yep. Huh.
He has to be bigger than me.
That's not true.
So, whatever. It's what he told me when I set it up.
Right. I don't understand what he's talking about because I was just discussing penis size, you know.
So he told me the only way that happens is if I inflate it.
Right, exactly. So every time, you know, there's a picture of my penis, it has to be in widescreen, you know.
He only looks at it through a car's rearview mirror. So it's larger.
Right. Closer than it appears. Right. So yeah.
Right. So the business of storytelling. I don't know how to. Well, the bad thing is I think we know how.
Yes.
Just doing it. Even like.
Well, it sure would be nice to have a.
Even like the podcast, it's like we know the only way our podcast is gonna gain traction
Mm-hmm.
is if we do it on a regular basis.
Because like it sure would be nice to, you know, like I said, you know, Tim, he started out by himself. It was just him in a room, basically reading the news. But you know, and that Jared guy from Guns and Gadgets. I don't know how many times I can drop somebody's name in a podcast, but anyway, you know, all he does is read the news, and the thing is everything he films. Because you know, when you see our podcast, it's always the same stuff behind us, and you know, we're in the same studio.
Yeah, in the same room together. He's just
Right.
across from me. Hey,
Right. Hello.
How are you?
But
I'm over here. Yeah. I'm special.
but Jared will actually all he uses to film himself, because he's really just telling the news, is he'll stop and drop everything at a moment's notice, and sometimes film from his car, but it's always just his phone.
Yeah, a lot of people
filming.
do the car thing.
And but he'll do it from home. He does have a home office type setup, but he you know, sometimes he'll be out eating, so he'll run out into the hallway somewhere and where it's quiet, and he goes, sorry, you know, ladies and gentlemen, I had to go on because they just, you know, this thing is being pushed through Congress, and I had to tell you about it, you know, blah, 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 blah. You know, contact your senators, contact, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, let's stop this shit.
Yeah, a lot of that, though, comes from, you know, he just left his family to do that, or left
Right.
whatever,
But I mean,
so.
I mean, he doesn't, you know, he does that for a living now, but sometimes I think they chose I guess you could say, an easier subject matter, and also they, you know, as far as equipment and all that kind of stuff, it's easier for them to get started, because we didn't start podcasting first. You know, first we, you know, I wrote books and you started illustrating, and now we've come so far. It's funny, you know, because if you know, to look at it gratefully, as, you know, now you have this fancy computer that they just saw seconds ago as you rotated the camera, where it's the Wacom tablet type thing where he can, you know, draw and ink and do all that stuff on this screen. He has, you know, all these fancy things, and it used to be the first time we did the first 23 pages or so of Shattered Time that we were submitting to different comic book companies, trying to get picked up. That was all done on paper with pen and ink.
Xerox copies.
And you know, it's a world of difference now. But yeah.
Now there's no point to send it to a comic book company.
Well, no, I mean,
They won't take it because they don't take.
I think I have a friend, and she writes. She's a wannabe author like me, you know, a writer. I mean, I guess you could say we are writers. We're just not paid writers. But you know, she is writing. She has a book series that she's writing, and she got contacted by a publishing company, and they started, you know, wooing her to, you know, to help her edit her book and all this kind of stuff and get it ready for publishing. But I don't know if I pissed her off or something, because I wrote back to her and said, be very careful, because there's a lot of these companies out there that will help you do your book, help you edit it, and help you do all this stuff, which you have to pay for. So they provide this service to you that you're paying for. And then after you get to that part where it's all edited and they go to publish it, they'll publish it, but you have to pay for all the printing expenses. Basically, you pay for everything. They pay nothing. And then they send you on a book tour where you go and to local bookstores and, you know, try to sign copies for people, you know, that, you know, most of these people have never heard of you because they don't advertise for you or do any of this stuff for you. So basically what you're doing is you're signing up for a service where you're paying them and you're paying for all of your printing fees and everything, and they provide nothing for you. It's the biggest scam ever. And I was just warning her, but she hasn't talked to me since. Because I think she, I don't know, got it in her mind that, you know, no, this is legit. You know, this is my chance. I'm like, oh shit. So.
That was what. Way back when we were talking with Michael Brewer about doing comics with him, and he had a guy said he wanted to publish it, and the more I was listening to him talk about it, it's like, wait, what's he doing? He's publishing it.
Nope.
We're paying for printing.
Right. We're paying for the advertising.
We're taking possession of the comic, and then we have to take it to local comic shops.
Yep.
And put it on the stands and sell it.
Right.
We have to promote it.
Correct.
We have to wait. So what exactly is he getting paid 50%?
Right.
To do? And he was
nothing.
Like, publish it. I'm like,
wrong.
Does he have a publishing name?
No.
Well, like, that's when I was like, well, how about we do this? What if we were to take our book and we'll give you, for a subscription, for $3 a month, we'll put out as many pages as we can for $3 a month.
Right.
And you can read 10, 12, 13, 14 pages, however many we can get done in a month. And you pay $3 for that, less than cover price. And you get $1, I get $1, colorist gets $1 if we can find one. And then we all turn back and give maybe 25 cents or 10 cents for operating costs.
Right.
For websites, for this and that. And you're making 90 cents or whatever. Let's round up. Let's just say we round it up to $3.40. I don't know. So you're all making $1, and we can get 5,000 people to buy our book every month. That's a solid business plan, I would think. You know, it's like, and it was like, well, then, great, let's do it. So how do we find 5,000 people? It's like,
right.
it's just crazy to try to find
But
the audience. That's the toughest part. The tough part isn't the creation. I mean, because we can find time to do. The tough part is finding the people to buy it.
right. But I mean, nowadays it seems like everybody self-publishes. The only people that ever get into like big book deals, that where there are publishing companies that advertise for you and do all this stuff and push your product for you. The only people that they already have to have a name.
Oh yeah. Well, there's some that are going to write a book that's so good.
Right. Well, Glenn Beck gets on the top. Like I've read Overton Window, good book.
But I'm sure he published that one himself.
No, he was published. Because he had a name.
Oh well, yeah.
And that it's like.
Because why would somebody like him give away money now?
Right.
He doesn't need to have somebody else publish it for him.
Right.
Whereas others do. I mean, there's people out there going to write a great book, and a publishing company will put out all the stops, advertise it, send them on tours, blah, 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 blah. One of the main markets that seem to be thriving right now is Amazon publishing.
Right.
You publish online through Amazon.
Yeah, you can publish anything.
Yeah, you can publish your stories through them,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of writers are doing that. But the only bad part I see about that, it seems like the people that only do good on that are the ones that are pumping out 3-4 novels a year.
Well, yeah,
Their character.
and
how quick are you going to get tired of that?
well, and also, I mean, it's not like people just wake up one morning and go, I dreamt last night that there's an author named M.R. Rasmussen.
Right.
I must go look at his book.
Right.
I mean, there has to be some advertising that goes on, and if you go on Amazon and and you just see this list of books, it's like you don't know anything about it.
Right. And then you see the success from these guys, and you're like, holy crap! Like I said, they're like, $1 million in one day. Wow. I think the campaign is up way over that by now. I think it was 1.2 million last time I saw it.
Campaign for what?
His book.
Oh, is it a GoFundMe thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, crowdfunding seems to be one of the another great way of doing things.
I have gone to the Brave browser on my phone. I use both.
Right.
But I've been using that one more. Look at what now. We're on Google.
Mm-hmm. And you can't find what you're looking for?
Yeah, you can't find his just straight to his website.
Right.
It's so freaking ridiculous.
Blaze TV doing comic books. That's really cool, man.
Well, they're all doing stuff. They're all.
Maybe we can get hooked up with them.
Oh, that's Twitter. Well, maybe there's a link to it. Oh gosh. But why does it have to be so difficult?
But what are you trying to find? What his crowdfunding's up to now?
His crowd, yeah. Let me see if
Eric July.
let's see. He will have a link to it. Geeks and Gamers. Rickleburst.com. Okay. Why? Because he honors that. He's gosh, what new latest campaign. So his character, keeps challenging the comic book company to create their own black character. They're like, stop tokenizing characters. Stop making a black Spider-Man. Stop making a black Superman. Stop. All you're doing, you're not honoring the black person by doing that. All you're doing is saying you can't come up with something as good.
Right.
You know. So instead, we're just going to take.
Right.
So he put his mouth, you know, where his mouth is, you know, and came up with his own story. I guess. Well, here, let's put over here for a second. Well, if I put over here, and if I go down here, I don't know if it'll. Oh yeah, just
So
do this or do that. It's like,
you said that.
well, you
So
got a couple $1,000 just laying around to go do that. I don't have a couple $1,000.
so Ripaverse, which is the name of his company. That's the name of the book company.
The book is ISOM.
Well, I know, but I mean, so like all comic books, in the corner, instead of saying Marvel or DC, it says Ripaverse.
Ripperverse, I think so, yeah.
So is he looking for other ideas?
I think so.
I mean, because my question is,
publishing house too.
because I've said before on here, I don't. I mean, I'm a writer, obviously, and I write stories, but I think of myself as a universe creator first, because I created this from the ground level of an RPG game, and it became a story. So I put all the rules down, and the world has to follow those rules. My question is did he create a universe? I mean, I guess we'd have to.
He's created a universe, and the first character.
Because
he launched the first character.
The problem, because my first thought was it would be great to jump into something with a guy like this, but at the same time, it's one of the hardest parts is if we were to try and sell our idea to Shattered Time to Marvel, is the first thing they'd say is this doesn't fit our universe.
Right.
Sorry.
The interesting though is it is his, but yet a lot of his support has come from the Blaze.
Mm-hmm.
He does shows on the Blaze.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that the Blaze are wanting to create parallel economy of entertainment.
And so is.
And from top to bottom, they're talking about same thing with Daily Wire. They want to do movies.
Yep.
All the way down to kids' cartoons.
Right. And so does. And Tim wants to get into that market also.
Wants to get into it also. Almost to the point where if they all have a different network, I'd be surprised if it wasn't at one time a Netflix and they all just contribute information, shows to it. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, the Blaze is looking for.
I sure hope Tim read my letter.
Because who was it? I think it was it Glenn? No, it was can't remember if it was Glenn Beck or if it was young Ripa. I think it might have been Ripa when because he put out a video around later that night from the first night.
Mm-hmm.
Of just the sheer shock and awe of what his campaign did. And when I saw that video, I went to the campaign. It was at 900,000 somewhere
Mm-hmm.
on there. So just the shock and awe of selling that many initial books is just
right.
Floored them. To know there's that much support out there for you. It's humbling. Make you feel something. But he said, now's the time when people are wanting just good stories.
I agree.
They still want entertainment. They just don't want the preaching. So your stories don't need to be anti-woke stories.
Right.
They just need to be stories. And we're looking for stories.
Right.
He has a universe he's wanting to expand in Rippaverse. Now, I don't know if, it's like we have the Rippaverse, and now I'm going to create this verse. I don't know if he's going to bring on more creators and have a second verse, or if he's just going to start creating a whole universe, and have his Spider-Man, his Batman, his all in one universe, and that's what he's wanting to do. But what we do know is other people involved in this want to create more.
Well, here's a pitch for Timcast. If he's wanting to get into this type of thing, also, I'll tell you right now. The universe that we've created with Shattered Time, since the universe has been created from an RPG level where all the rules of everything is set out, and the world has been painted. The things that you can do with something like that is you can create online open world video games. You can create RPGs, which has already been created. I just need to have it printed, basically. animated shows, live action shows, all of this stuff, for the universe that I've created. I mean, the sky's the limit. And then you also have, just the merchandising that would come out of it. There's characters in there that I know people are just going to fall in love with, and they'll be on T-shirts and everywhere, and people are just going to love it. I mean, I just can't wait until I see two nerds talking about the latest episode of Shattered Time. I think it would be a kick in the ass to hear two nerds just talking about it, instead of me and this nerd over here talking about the latest episode of Stranger Things.
I mean, the sad part is how much it takes to finance a book, to start with. It actually is a drastic investment.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you find somebody with the money, I mean, they truly have to be convinced to risk their money.
Somebody have to put up their salary for a year if they were going to do it. You know what I mean?
And that's what always kind of surprises me is, you hear some, you remember when we were talking a long time ago about the toys that made us.
Yeah.
And you find out that these toy companies would front this huge amount of capital to make a movie that just sucked ass, and you just shake your head and you're like, man, you could have got anybody off the street to write a better piece of shit than that. And you wouldn't have had to pay them so much. I mean, the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, that movie with the movie that, I mean, they got Dolph Lundgren, one of the biggest names they could find, and they didn't follow the original story, which really somebody pulled out of their ass, but they did have an original story, an original comic book line that they could have followed for the movie, but instead they just went, it would be cool if He-Man accidentally landed on Earth. And, stuff happens. It's like, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll go with that. And let's introduce a character that has nothing to do with the He-Man universe at all. This short little doofus that, is basically the Jar Jar Binks of his time.
Because they couldn't do Orko right. They wouldn't be able to do Orko back then,
Well, it was just, I mean,
it'd be too expensive.
It's just retarded.
Well, but also back then, unlike today, I mean, have you seen Doctor Strange and the Madness?
Oh, yeah. Multiverse of Madness.
Multiverse of Madness. So that comic, man, there was some Doctor Strange stuff in it.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of it I thought was horrible. A lot of it was just like, roll my eyes. It shoehorned so much crap into that movie.
Right.
Like, forced it in. But, man, that ending with him taking over the dead body, and it's like, oh, that is so strange. That is so Doctor Strange.
Yep.
That was pure comic magic.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't do that 20 years ago. People would have, it'd be too fantastical, too wild for them to think of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They could do He-Man now, straight in the universe, straight, even with the the surroundings, the everything, the people walking around, and you'd buy it. You'd go, okay, sweet, let's go for that ride.
Right.
Back then, I mean, man, they couldn't even do outfits very well. They still don't do outfits. Everything has to be leather instead of trying to make their suits actually look like something from the comics.
But yeah, I mean,
it will be interesting. I must admit, I want to know what the new Marvel X-Men will be like, because they did introduce the X-Men with Xavier then Multiverse of Madness. So that's the first time X-Men. Well, it's not the first time they've been mentioned. That's the first time they've actually appeared in a Marvel.
Right. The MCU. Yeah.
MCU. So.
Right.
Hopefully, when they do introduce them, they'll be the good set of Marvel characters, X-Men, and not just a bunch of bench warmers that are trying to push down your throat.
Well, the only thing that I wish, and I don't know if it was because they didn't have the money or whatever, is I kind of wanted them to do Beast the way that they did Hulk. You know, instead of, you know, in the past when they did Hulk, it was Lou Ferrigno. Right. And so far in in all the X-Men movies, Beast is just a guy in blue paint. Right. You know, and some fur. And it's like, no, Beast is 7.5 to almost 8 feet tall. He kind of walks with a hunch. I mean, he does squat down, so he looks normal height, but he's big, burly, and he can grab things with his feet, you know. I mean, he's a really cool-looking character, and the only way you can do it properly is CG him. I mean, you know, that's one of the things that I'm so grateful about when I first heard that they were going to do Guardians of the Galaxy, because one of my other favorite characters is Rocket Raccoon. I thought, oh shit, they're going to screw this up. They're going to have like a puppet or something, you know. And luckily they CGI'd it and it looks great.
They're just going to have an actor do them. And then call him Rocket.
Have an actor with like things around, circles around his eyes. Call him Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah. He will just be like merged a human with a raccoon.
Right.
So we'll have raccoon facial features and hand claws, whatever. And so instead of an actual raccoon having been experimented on.
But I mean, the funny thing is, you know, those two characters, Rocket Raccoon and the Beast, they actually have quite a bit in common. They're not super in the fact that, you know, they can fly and shoot laser beams out of their eyes or anything like that. They have to rely on their intelligence and technology for the most part. Because the Beast, yes, he can kick some ass, you know, because he's big. But he can invent some shit that's really cool. And so can Rocket Raccoon. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean...
those are always my favorite characters, though. Is those characters that aren't really super, they're just hyper intelligent, and they can, you know, invent some cool shit.
He's just like the one-off character, the side-off character, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It was always Han Solo, Spock, Wolverine, Colossus. I told somebody after watching Thor last night, it's like, yeah, I didn't really read much of that. I grew up with X-Men.
Right.
If you can give me an X-Men comic that features Wolverine, Colossus, and Rogue,
yeah,
that's my team. Those three, not the Rogue from the movies. I want Carol Danvers sucking.
Well, yeah, but I always thought that they should, if they're going to do Rogue right, they need to just start with an origin story, and it needs to start. I mean, my vision
I'll
of
be fine with her taking out this Captain Marvel, because
right. Well, what would be great is to start the movie, you know, at that climactic part, and then kind of fade back and you know, show everything as a, you know, type of flashback, but just start the movie where you see Rogue holding onto her head.
Well,
just
actually, I would like to see the whole fight. I think it'd be.
Oh yeah, but I mean, you just show that later. I mean, but it starts right there. You know, just like Deadpool started with that one action scene. What? That body was already here.
That'd be a great way to open a new X-Men movie.
What? He was already here before we got here.
bringing Rogue into the
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
X-Men world.
but just to have that scene, and then you could actually get into
They should go get
the
that.
mind part of it, where because in the comic books, when she grabs hold of somebody, she's not only sucking, their powers. She's basically pulling that person out of their own body. Just sucking their entire essence. And then there's a lot of in the comic books there was a lot of fight scenes where they're on the mind plane, just challenging each other. Because Carol Danvers does have the ability to kind of take over if she fights hard enough.
Oh yeah. Well, only usually if she gets really weak.
Right.
There was that Extinction Agenda where they took away Rogue's powers and she got physically abused and all that stuff. And so she kind of retreated into her mind. There was all.
And Carol was waiting.
Carol was waiting.
It's like
She took over.
right. But yeah, that was one of the things that was kind of cool about the X-Men
Back
is
when comics were just about comics, just about
Right.
great stories.
Mhm.
Although I mean, they always had their political things and soul
Well,
things,
not really.
but
I mean,
that wasn't the important thing of the story.
Well, yeah,
That'd be a side thing.
to me,
I mean,
what
well,
was great
X-Men's
about
a whole allegory about
what was-
racial acceptance.
what was great about Stan Lee's writing and a lot of the writers from back then that were working on X-Men and all this kind of stuff is he really wanted to get down to the psychology of it. When I was talking about the path, what makes a person get to that point where they're willing to do something morally against their character. And if you look at all the old Marvel stories, that's what it was about. And what was funny is people always ask me, well, did you ever watch, or did you ever read DC, blah, 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 and it's like, I sure did try.
I tried, yeah.
But the problem with DC is, Marvel was on this level of talking about the psychology and, the emotion, the human behind the power, and whether it was right or wrong to use these powers, etc. And DC was this hokey fucking I don't know, it felt like they talked down to their readers, and that's what I mean. And I was
My problem with DC was, as I was telling the guy last night, my first introduction to DC was Justice League on cartoon.
Yeah.
And so I just saw like Batman and Robin as being the biggest jokes of the superhero world. It was like, there's no way I'm reading a Batman comic. Then I was
Right.
in high school in driver's ed,
Well,
and had a friend of mine tell me about it. He's like, no, that's not a Batman. He goes, I'll bring you a book.
right,
He brought me The Killing Joke. He said,
right, and
read this.
right.
And I was like, that's a lot different.
Yeah, that's the thing is that was it felt like there was one group of writers at DC and then there was another group of writers at DC. One group of writers would do the mainstream stuff that was trying to be kid friendly and simplify everything down to good versus evil and good always wins, and they never explored any type of deep thought behind anything. It was just always good versus evil, good always wins. And what ruined Batman for me was my first introduction to Batman was that stupid fucking Adam West.
Oh, yeah, I guess
That ruined Batman.
between the two of them.
And then but when you read some of the like you said, the Killing Joke and
Killing Joke,
some of the ones that were really
The Long Halloween.
in-depth thinking about the emotion behind everything, those were really well written. But
But there has to be a healthy balance. Like
But I mean,
I watched a video of a guy explaining.
I still think that if you were to compare Marvel's Batman, which I always thought Marvel's Batman was Punisher, if you compare those stories to Batman, Punisher, yeah, but the emotions and the stuff that he was going through, it all shines through in those stories, and that's great. And then you have the realism of.
They actually have a Batman?
Oh, and did Marvel have a Batman type of character? Well, that would be the closest one I could think of, because he's just a normal dude. Didn't have as much money as Batman. I guess Green is who? No, but that's DC. Trying to think of anybody that's Daredevil, kinda, maybe, but he wasn't rich either.
No, he's smart. He's smart. I'm just thinking of a detective.
Right.
That's
that
his
was
first thing.
Yeah.
That's what I always loved about on the animated cartoon series they had. Raja Ghul.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's how he always addressed them. Detective.
Right.
It's never Batman. Hero. Detective. Because that's what he honored. That's what he respected about him.
Right. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they actually. Maybe they just realized it just can't. Which is funny because DC has multiple. Blue Beetle is a Batman
character.
character.
Green Arrow.
Superman, technically. I mean, with
Not
powers,
rich.
but he's still a reporter who has to sleuth out
stuff.
Information.
Right.
In fact, there's like a hierarchy of detectives.
Mm-hmm.
John Johns, who was a Martian Manhunter. He was a New York City detective. So a lot of them.
Yeah.
Definitely within that genre.
But I still think if I had to compare writers between the two companies, I liked Marvel's writers better.
I got vastly more Marvel comics than I have
DC. Although
I have a lot of Image though, but that was because I was so into
McFarlane?
artwork. Image, McFarlane, Jim Lee, Silvestri.
Yep.
Mainly those three. Then I got like most of the first editions of all the other guys and stuff, but I never liked their artwork or their writing enough to continue on with it.
Right.
Static Shock, Tribesman, Tribal? Those characters.
Yep.
If anybody out there has got some ideas on how we can.
Well, I just want, yeah, or if we just, and maybe we need to hook up with, Wire or Blaze or.
That would help, but I guess we should have an after session and talk. Were there a few bits out of this that we should clip out?
I don't know.
You can remember, or do we have to listen back to it again?
I usually, after we tape, when I'm driving home, I listen to this.
I usually don't listen, but.
Well, you need to. And
Well,
I listen to it and I post it on Facebook, even though I'd said at the very beginning of this I don't use Facebook. I do post this stuff on Facebook. Because at least people don't argue with me about this shit.
Try to write, if you're like, oh, this is a good segment, oh, that was a good segment.
Right.
Then write it down and see if you can do timestamp where it technically might be.
Right.
They'll help me find it.
Yep.
I'll have to download some editing software.
Shit. Well, we did 2 hours. Ish.
2 hours and 20 minutes.
No.
Peace.
Okay, even though I say this every damn time, I don't know if we just need to start doing more on our website, etc. But anyway,
Yeah.
burnoutstudios.com. You can still find us there. I'm still, paying the bill, for it. Oh, and we just changed the name of this. Instead of Bruce Phillips, it's Burnout Studios.
I was trying to change the banner, but the stupid... Oh my gosh. So I tried to upload him. It doesn't meet the minimum requirements of image site. These need da-da-da and da-da-da. So the one that wasn't hitting it, I boosted up the image to meet that minimum. And then, it takes it, but it blows it so far up
right.
that I'm looking at this line. It's like, what?
Right.
What? Why can't I win?
Right. So
Something simple like that. Can I just get a win?
Other ways to find us are, I have the actual books, Shattered Time, which is a 4-novel series that I'm working on. On Spotify, you can find Shattered Time. You can look that up, and you can find Shattered Time on there. It has our logo, which is really cool. And it's me just reading a chapter at a time. I think it's sounding good, but there's like in chapter 2, there's for some reason there's parts of the story that it speeds up and so I sound like a chipmunk on some things. I don't know why that happened or what that was about. So I need to go back at some point and record all that stuff, but but I'm going to do the entire first book as a podcast. Hopefully get some. It wasn't my idea. I've actually seen other people introduce their book to the world this way. Reading a chapter at a time, and I guess it's easier to shop their book to publishers and get it published that way. Because there was a.
Well, once you have a built-in audience,
right.
People are going to be more willing to read. That's
right.
That's the only reason why Tim, by saying that he wants, which is funny because he says I want smaller shows, but yet everybody and their grandmother is probably going to email him.
Right.
And how is he ever going to get to see? Probably the first one that sent. Probably
right.
Lucky ones. We need to craft the letter and then attach the video and send it to him.
Right.
We should attach this one.
Please, Tim, please. But yeah.
We don't need a lot of funding, but a little bit of funding up front would be enough for me to have my wife work part-time for me to do the book
right.
on a regular basis, more of a regular basis. And I can stream more and do the book at the same time.
Right.
Depending on what book he wants to finance. Either one,
right.
Great. Either one's ready for it.
Because that's the thing is, I mean, if you were to break down my day, I go to work, which I'm a restaurant manager, and a restaurant manager's hours, usually on a day-to-day basis, I work 12 to 15 hours a day, and then I go home and try to do something in a writing capacity, whether I'm writing the short stories for a town called Liberty, or whether I'm writing Shattered Time stuff or reading Shattered Time stuff, which, like I've said before, I thought I'd be further along on Spotify reading each chapter, but I'm only up to chapter 4. I mean, so far, that's what the listeners can listen to, is all the way up to chapter 4, and I haven't gone any further because I never seem to have time.
And with Laura, she actually worked part-time would be perfect.
Right.
She has to now over-exaggerate hours.
Well, yeah, I know.
So the other day,
because it's a culinary thing.
One day was 13 hours, but the next day was 16. It was just like, nothing gets done those days, you know what I mean?
No.
That's a long day with the 3-year-old.
Yep.
Long day.
Right.
But she could go down to 25 hours, 30 hours, you know, and you had a little better of a schedule.
Right.
Boy, that'd really make a difference, you know. It would only have to be supplementing half, which isn't very much as it is. So.
And I've also noticed, you know, the older I get, after I get off work, you know, I'm on my feet all day doing, you know, manual labor, and when I get home, I don't want to, but if I don't stretch out and stretch my muscles and stuff, when I fall asleep, everything starts to cramp. And it's like, oh, great. And then, you know, when I wake up, you know, it sounds like Rice Krispies when I wake up. And so, yeah, it's, you know, just to avoid the pain, I have to stretch out and make sure I get all my muscles worked because, yeah. But you know, the older I get, the older anybody gets, I think exercise is no longer an option. You have to. Because if you don't exercise, your body sure does punish you for it. It's like, oh, way to go, fatso. Here, we're going to destroy you. So, yeah. But on the bright side, you know, I'm skinnier than I've ever been, so.
Oh, that's good.
So, but yeah.
Right.
Okay, once again, burnoutstudios.com, our podcast here at Burnout Studios, Shattered Time on Spotify.
Any comments?
And yes, please comment, subscribe, push that little bell icon. I don't know, all the other stuff.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you next week.